In this video, we're going to talk about the calculation of leading and lagging indicators. And specifically, we'll discuss how the floor of leading and lagging performance should be calculated in a case when we deal with some connected goals on our strategy map. And well, in the description for this video, I'm going to add some relevant links to one article where the details of the calculations are explained, where this example is explained in some details. And I will also link to the scorecard project and BC Designer that I'm using right now during this presentation. I'm also going to provide a link to that scorecard so that you can test it on your own. Okay, so here we have an example of some connected goals. I have a goal in customer perspective, which is improve customer service. That is linked to the two supporting goals in internal processes perspective. So one supporting goal is create video tutorials, and another supporting goal is train support agents. So the logic flow is clear here, I think. So to improve customer service, we do create video tutorials, and we do train support agents more. And let's look at these two goals below. We have here the green section and the gray section. So the green section, this green line stands for leading indicator, and the gray line stands for lagging indicator. In the context of this goal, creating video tutorials, the leading indicator will be the percent of tutorials that we have created compared to the planned percent of the tutorials. So basically, it's tutorials coverage. So if we plan to cover 80% of the functions of the tool with video tutorials, then that's our leading indicator. What about lagging indicator in this case? The lagging indicator helps us to validate the achieved results. And what are the results in the context of this goal, create video tutorials? Well, we can track something like the number of videos that were created, but this will be a very basic output indicator. I prefer to use something more aligned with the business context, aligned with the desired business outcome. So I will choose this average watch time. So basically, this indicator will show us if people are actually engaged with the video tutorials that we have created. So two indicators, leading one that measures how well we did in terms of creating video tutorials, and lagging one that helps us to see if created tutorials actually worked out in this case. The same happens with train support agents. Here we have two leading indicators. One is training time, and another is participation rate. So basically, we measure time that trainer and students spent on some training. And we also make sure that enough people were participating in the training. So that's how we calculate these two leading indicators. And we have a lagging indicator that helps us to validate if the progress was achieved in the context of this goal, if we trained support agents and if this training was effective. And how can we validate it? Well, the basic validation method is to look at the test score, that at the score of the test that we do after the training, and this will give us an idea about the effectiveness of this training. So this was a kind of introduction, and now let's talk about how these indicators actually contribute to the above standing goal. Now, I have mentioned that we have here two leading indicators, and each of these indicators has its own performance figures. So basically, the performance of this indicator is clear. It's 80%. because we measure it on a scale from 0 to 100. As for the performance of the training time indicator, I need to look in the article to confirm what scale we have used, but from this gauge icon, I can deduce that the performance is somewhere around 50%. So what we need to do now, we need to take into account the performance of these two indicators, and we need to calculate the performance, the leading performance of the whole goal, training support agents. Well, software did this for us automatically, and that's why we see here this figure, 65%. This is the weighted average of these two indicators that I have here, the weighted average of training time and participation rate. What about login performance? The login performance for this goal, for training support agents, comes from login indicators that are aligned with this goal. In this case, only one indicator is aligned with this goal. This is emulation test score, which has currently 85% performance. So that's the performance that is translated to the login part of this goal. So basically we have here on the left, this green zone is the leading performance of this goal and the login performance of this goal. So how we did in terms of actions, in terms of input, and how we did in terms of the results, in terms of output. Now, a question that is typically asked is if the leading part is connected to the login part. It is not connected directly, but it is connected via the strategic hypothesis that we wanted to prove by creating this goal on this strategy map. What do I mean? I mean that when we create certain goal on the strategy map, we always make an assumption, we always make an hypothesis about whether this idea will work for us. For example, here, we want to create video tutorials. That's our goal. But our hypothesis is that by achieving the required coverage of the tutorials, the leading indicator, we will see that the average watch time will increase. Does it mean that we have a guarantee that the watch time will increase? Probably not. Probably the quality of the tutorials will be not that good and will not see the increase in watch time. Probably people will ignore these videos. Probably people will simply won't be able to find these videos. That's the hypothesis that we are proving. So if we put on the left chart, on the left side, a chart for leading performance, we're supposed to see the correlation between this chart and another chart for the login performance. So that's the idea, that these two parts, the leading part and login part, are connected but they're connected not by some hard connection by data, but they're connected on the level of hypothesis. Okay, so we have leading part, we have login part, and leading part is contributed by the leading indicators, while login part, like login part here, is contributed by this login indicator, elevation test score, and login part of the create video tutorials is contributed by this login indicator. And of course, we can have more login indicators. Like for example, here I have two leading indicators, and the software calculates for me weighted average. As well, if we would have here more login indicators, the software would calculate for me weighted average, for example. This can be adjusted in the software, and it will finally be used here in the login performance of this goal. And the final comment is what happens with login performance. I mentioned that leading performance is here just for our attention, just so that we could make some decision about if we have invested enough in the action plans, if we have invested enough in the inputs. So this leading performance in terms of calculations, it stays on this level, on the level of this goal. But the login performance of the goal here, this part, 85%, is translated to the above standing goal and it is translated in the form of leading indicator. What does it mean? It means that in terms of the calculation of this goal, improve customer service, this goal, train support agents, and its login performance will work as a leading performance for this goal. So again, let's look at this goal, improve customer service. I see here two leading goals, create video tutorials and train support agents, and they have certain performance figures. And this performance comes from the performance of the lagging parts of below standing goals. So 7% comes from this goal, create video tutorials. I see here that the lagging performance of this goal is 7%. And the 85% come from the login performance of train support agents. So basically, the logic flow in this case is very simple. We did something in terms of video tutorials. We trained our support agents, and this is translated as a leading factor to this goal. And again, in the case of this goal, we have the same parts. We have leading part on the left and login part on the right. And leading part is calculated as average of these two figures. So I have here 46, the leading performance. And login part is calculated using the login indicators that I have entered, so retention rate in this case. That is 75% performance. So that's a very simple logic that the software uses. And with the BC Designer software, you don't have to worry about the calculations part, as the software will do everything for you. And in the end, I would like to repeat that in the description for this video, you will find the links to some relevant materials, to the article where we discuss the calculations, some formulas in the details, as well as a link to the scorecards that you can open in any web browser, and you can just check it out by yourself.